What you see in front of you is a very lightweight, easy to set up, possible tent replacement. This is the Alpha tent. It's a cheap, super lightweight shelter, and I'm going to show you how to set it up when we come back. Alright, so it doesn't look much like a tent, but it can actually keep you protected. It's very light, it's very inexpensive, and for those of you doing like night out in the woods type of bushcraft type stuff, maybe the perfect thing for you. Now there are many ways to set up this USGI poncho shelter. This is basically a rain poncho, a real one. Make sure you get a real one, not the wrong size or anything, because this only works with this size. At least the measurements I'm going to give you today only work with the USGI size of poncho. It's basically just a rain poncho. You'd stick it on over you when it's raining. But it has grommets in it, as you can see here, which make it very, very cool for setting up a shelter. I'm going to open you up here and show you. And there's a reason for the paracord. Show you what I got, and I'll explain dimensions and everything else. Now, eventually, this is going to replace the sleep system in my get-home bag. Because my get-home bag, really, all I have for a shelter in there is a tarp and some line and some stakes. This will be able to replace all of that very, very simply. So, you'll notice I have one of those little UST bivvies, emergency bivvies. We got 4 stakes. You don't necessarily need stakes, but if it's windy, it's a good idea to have them with this setup. You'll notice I have poles. Now you can make your own poles. There are places that sell the tubes and the shock cord and the ends. I'm going to show you what I use for the ends on these and why you kind of have to modify things a little bit. These happen to be tent poles I had left over from another tent that I no longer had. The tent really, it was one I bought years ago when I was first doing ham radio and we had our field day and I needed a tent. So you can understand I knew nothing about tents back then. Let's see. Okay, here you go. Here are your poles. Now you'll notice they have these things on them. I'm going to show you what that looks like, and we'll show you what you're going to put on there to make it fit. So this is what you're going to be looking for. What you want to do with these is you want to stick these on the end. These are winged wire connectors. Real simple. I got these at Home Depot a while back for a different project. You're going to drill a hole in the end there, and you got to be careful because there is a spring in there. What I like to do is kind of drill this way to get the spring loose, and then drill through here, and the spring will just weed its way out, kind of worm its way out with the drill. So it's fairly simple to do. You're going to drill a hole in there, and you're going to take off the ends of your tent poles. You got to take off those ends. So you see here, I've cut off the ends. Now you want to hold this cord while you cut that, so the cord doesn't go into your body and you lose it. Now these have to be cut down to 111 inches. As I said, I had these, so I had to cut about 5 inches off them. That's why I suggest you check online. There are places that sell much lighter poles than these, the light aluminum ones, and you can set up the exact length you need. I have 2 of them here, so you can set that up. So they need to be 111 inches long. You need the 4 electrical wire nuts on the end. There they are. I'm looking the wrong way. And those will fit perfectly into these grommets. That's what you're going for. So, once you've got these cut down to 111 inches each, you're going to set them up crisscross in the tent. And don't worry, we're going to be setting this up outside. I'll walk you through it. So, again, this isn't a replacement for a full-size tent. It's more of a, if you have to move fast and light kind of thing, or if you find yourself in an emergency, it'll be able to give you some time to stay warm, dry, safe. Eventually, like I said, I'm going to build this into a whole sleep system. This really isn't in the review today, but that's why it's in there. And it's going to replace the tent that I have in my get-home bag, which really isn't a tent, it's a tarp. So, actually, I'm going to use this for the video today, but it looks something like this. Not very stealthy, not very light, not very concealable, and probably wouldn't work as well in keeping you dry than this one. This is kind of a rubbery feeling to it, and it is waterproof. So basically, you're going to just stick these in the holes, cross them over, flip them in, flip the tent over, and you're good to go. Now, how this would work is once the poles are crossed over and you're set up, it's going to be a little dome, and you're going to be able to pick it up, put your stuff underneath, whether you have a pad or whatever, or your sleeping bag, and drop this on top of you, kind of like an umbrella. It's very, very lightweight, so that's why I suggest at least staking down the back part of your tent, your alpha tent, and keeping it secure. You can stake down the front if you want, but it's going to be kind of hard to get out. So also you can take one stake. If you do buy these, you can take one and prop it up in the middle, so you have a dome tent with a little bit of an entrance. But for our purposes today, we're just going to be setting this up, plopping it over us like a big umbrella. So I'm going to take it outside, and I'm going to walk you through each step, and we're going to set it up out there. I'm going to give you an idea what it looks like. All right, so your first step is going to be to put it down. Now, it is a little windy out here, so if it blows away mid-video, you'll understand. That's another reason why you have the stakes, because that way you can stake it down. You're going to put it out flat. You'll notice where your head would go in this. It's a rain poncho, remember. Where your head would go in the middle there is facing outward. You want that to face outward, and you're eventually going to tie it off if you need to tie it off, if it's windy or rainy or whatever. You can leave it open for some ventilation too, depending on the weather and how it is where you set it up. So let's go to the first step and start getting this built. So after your first step of laying out the tarp, you're going to want to crisscross the poles. You don't necessarily have to crisscross them. I'm kind of demoing it for you here. But you can crisscross the poles, and you're going to take each of those little red ends on each end and stick them in the grommets. So I'm going to show you up close what that looks like and get it built from there. All right, so these grommets, like I said, the red wire wing nuts there will fit in there perfectly. We'll push that through, and any knot will do on the end here. I forgot to mention that before. I just tied a couple of knots on the end there to hold it, so it's pretty simple. So you got that in there. I'm going to put the other side in and show you what it looks like with half of it. All right, so you can see it already getting pulled that way. Now I'm going to put in the other side, and we'll get this thing up and set up. All right, so there you go. It's all set up. Now you'll notice that I have the part where your head would go open right now. That will give you a lot of fresh air in the tent if you want it. If not, you remember all that paracord I had, you can just bunch that up and tie it off. I'm going to give you a quick walk around the tent here, and you'll see it's not flush, and you do have a grommet in the front there, so if you want to stick that up a little bit with another stick or something, you could do that. It's not flush in the front. You could also pull it down a little tighter too. Also inside, where the poles cross over, that's another place where I have my paracord, a little piece, just to lash it together to hold it together tightly. So let's walk around this tent and see what it looks like. All right, here we go. Now I'm about 6'1". I can fit under that, laying down flat. Of course, I wouldn't set it up on rocks out here, but you get an idea what this looks like. It's a whole lot bigger than you'd expect. Now you have those little sides, those grommets on the side there, to stake it down, so you can keep it secure. And you can do it on all three, like you can do one here, one back there, and one on the other side. Or if you wanted to, you could do it on all four, but it's going to kind of make it hard to get in and out of the tent in front. So there is the Alpha tent. This is not an original idea. It actually comes from a website, alpharubicon.com. Check them out. They got amazing stuff on their site for survival. Lots of awesome ideas. So I'm going to take it back inside, and we're going to pack it up. I'm going to show you how I'd pack it up and set it up for carry and for future bags or whatever. All right, we're back inside. Now, the nice thing about this shelter is you really don't have to fold it up neat like I do. You could stick all this into a stuff sack, just cram it in there with your temporary sleeping bag or whatever you're using. These I'd recommend folding back up if you're using this. But some eventual ideas are getting a heat trapping blanket. You know those UST blankets they sell at Walmart? The orange ones with the lining on the back? Probably that would be good for a ground cover, and small enough where you just roll this into it, no big deal. Possibly one of those Snug Pack Special Forces bivy bags. They're a little bit thicker than the little cheapy ones here. A little bit thicker, can be reused a few times. It also can be used with a base. These can be stuffed with leaves, so protect your body from heat on the ground in the meantime. And down the road, possibly getting some lighter tent poles. These are kind of heavy. You know, they have these little metal things on the bottom. You stick them in there. And the poles themselves are they're fiberglass or plastic or whatever. I think they're plastic because this was a cheap tent. But, you know, something a little bit lighter. But those are future upgrades. For now, I think it makes a really cool shelter system for just a emergency, you know. You could really hook this up where it could be a comfortable tent, but for an emergency, you know, once you tie when the 2 poles cross over, once you tie them together, they're not going anywhere, and you can stake it down, and it can be a pretty good emergency shelter. And it is very light and very quick to set up. You saw it was real simple to set up. The first time I tried to set it up, my poles were too long, and it took me forever and wouldn't work because my poles were too long. I read the part about them being 111 inches. So as I said before, if you search for Alpha Tent in Google, the Alpha Rubicon site will come up. The gentleman who invented it has loads and loads of survival experience. You definitely want to check it out. He even has this upside down in a lake using it as a flotation device. So it's a really cool idea. I'm going to pack it up and show you how small we can get it. We're not going to worry about that yet. I'm going to stick this in here and those in here. And eventually maybe some lighter aluminum stakes down the road. Okay. We're just going to roll it up about to there. Then I'm going to put these away. And I'll stick them in a bag. I'm going to tie off the end just to keep everything in there. You don't need to use paracord. You could use anything for this, even a rubber band. I'm just going to tie it up real quick with a simple knot there. No fancy knots needed on this one. Now there are other ways to set this up too. You could get some bank line and set it up as a kind of a L-shaped shelter. There are so many ways to set this up. So it's pretty much up to you any way you want to do it. Okay, here we go. And again, I told you, they don't need to be folded. I'm a neat freak, so I fold everything. But they don't need to be folded. And there you go. There's your shelter. I mean, there's your whole kit right there. You could strap that to the bottom of a get-home bag or a bug-out bag or anything like that and have a really cool, simple shelter set up for yourself. There you go. So, I will leave a link in the description to where you can find out more info about this tent. It's not my original idea, but heck, you see how simple it was to pack up. So when you're ready to go, even with a ground cover, I mean, even if I use something ridiculously huge and heavy as this, that still isn't going to take up a whole lot of space. This isn't folded very well, but let's pretend. There, okay? And you could even use a plastic sheet if you wanted to use as a ground cover. Now, obviously, I wouldn't set this up on rocks out there because that would be kind of uncomfortable. I just wanted to avoid the construction noise from the house, kind of not across the street from us, but like over that way. So I figured I'd set it up out there. But anyway, there you go. That is the Alpha Tent. Super simple project for you to get together. You can pick these ponchos up, the rain ponchos up, super cheap. They're just a USGI poncho liner. They fit inside your rain poncho to keep you dry. And they are the kind of rubbery, not rubbery, more Gore-Tex ripstop type stuff. And supposedly, if you don't mess with them and don't wash them, they're also IR proof. So they're very, very hard to see with infrared, and they work good in a natural environment. I mean, they're so small, they got a low profile, they got camo already. Good chance you'll end up setting this up and forgetting where you put it. So it's a very, very handy little tent and a very, very handy little idea. And I wanted to share it with you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. It's real simple to set up. Not anything you need any kind of specialized experience to do. You just grab one of these off of anywhere. I mean, I picked this up in my local military surplus store. The tent poles I had, you can order them online. Real simple to put together. And I'd be willing to bet you, I think I paid $5 for this poncho liner, but I'd be willing to bet you could do this for under $20. Now, how often can you get something that you know is going to be waterproof and set up over you as a shelter for under $20? So that's the video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out our Amazon store down below. I will try and see if they have any of these on Amazon, and I'll put it in there. If they do, I'll link to them. And don't forget to check out our Thrive Life store. If you're interested in getting started with some freeze-dried food for food storage, for all you preppers out there, check them out. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching. Stay safe and stay prepared.